We're joined today by Lips, the founder, singer, guitarist for the band Anvil. They've got a new album out. It's called One and Only, and they're coming to Minneapolis to Zord Darling on August 21st. Lips, how's it going, man?
I'm doing okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Well, Anvil is back with a new album, One and Only. Can you tell the listeners a bit about the new album?
It's a new album, a new Anvil album. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. It's another Anvil album, with 12 songs on it that are extremely different from each other. Not overall different from anything Anvil does, but definitely different from each other. Lots of variety, guaranteed for our original fans and new fans to love it totally. No problem. It fits right in with everything we've ever done. So there's no worries about, oh no, they've changed to the Bon Jovi sound. No, we didn't.
It does seem like you kind of went back to more of the classic Anvil sound, I guess, like the heavy groove kind of sound from the early days. Was that a conscious effort to kind of get back to that, or did it just kind of happen during the life?
It just kind of happened naturally because I think we got really, you just kind of identify what you are and zero in on it. You know what I mean? I think it just comes with it, with the age of the band and how many records we've done. That's all. It's number 20.
Yeah, that is incredible. 20 albums. And I'm always amazed where it comes from. I mean, after so many songs and the lyrics and the riffs you're still coming up with, I mean, is it still easy for you to do that after all these years, or what's the secret?
I don't know that there is a secret other than and it shouldn't be a secret. As long as you have an imagination, there's a future. And as long as you care and want to, I think it's as simple as that. You don't really all of a sudden can't write anymore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like all of a sudden you wake up in the morning. I forgot how to breathe. You're not going to forget how to breathe. Okay. It's much the same thing. You are what you are, and you continue doing it for as long as you want to. That's what it's really all is, at least from my perspective. I guess there are people that lose interest. Well, that's well and fine. And you lost interest. And that means that you don't care anymore and you walk away. So it depends on the individual.
Sure.
Obviously, it's meant too much to me. I worked too long and too hard to be giving up at this point. It's the last 100 yards. You know what I mean? I'm 68 years old. It's the last 100 yards. I'm not quitting. I'm here till I'm not.
Well, one thing I love, the songs on One and Only, and they have that storytelling type vibe. I mean, really, I think you do that more than probably any other metal band, just that kind of style of writing. I think it's great. Well,
it's interesting because there's a lot of negativity to it too. But I guess that's a good sign. Where there's negativity, it means that you've touched people in some way or another. But I mean, I try not to never let it get the better of me. That's for sure. But it still has an effect. When you read stuff, kindergarten lyrics, and you're going, well, if these are kindergarten lyrics, I guess everything else must be, brain surgery lyrics. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, what is the criteria that some of these people have things to say about? What's the criteria? What makes something an advanced lyric versus, versus a kindergarten lyrics, right? What's the answer on that? What makes people say that this, one song is lousy and the other one is great? It's the same. It's subjective. It's the same thing as when you look at a piece of art and make is it worth $1 million or is it worth 50 cents? And in its time, Van Gogh's paintings, they were worth 50 cents. Now they're worth 15 billion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what the criteria is, what makes people write, especially comments. It's, I guess it's the day and age. Everybody's got something to bellyache over, I guess.
Well, that stuff is not, people say things like that, but then if you actually sit down and try to write, songs like you have, it's definitely not as easy as people would think.
Well, the thing is, a lot of judgment I feel was passed on towards me as a result of the early days and writing sexual innuendo songs. It's just like, oh, they're a stupid band, they write vulgar songs. You write a song called Toe Jam, and it's all of a sudden you're vilified. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. But if you try to write that, I wrote a song with sexual innuendo in a format like square dancing.
Sure.
And this is a number of years ago, but it was actually, I to this day I still say it's brilliant. But there are people going, that is so fucking stupid, like you're whatever. Try to write it, That's what I say. It's one thing to cast judgment. It's another thing to actually pull off the deed that you're judging.
Definitely.
Try it. See if they can do it. But aside from that, I think that there's always great things to write about, and if people are in tune and take the bother to read it, then they might enjoy what they're reading. But generally speaking, I think some people, the idiots, the trolls, cast judgment before they've even listened, if they even bother to listen.
Sure. Well, on the new album, One and Only, you've got the song Fight for Your Rights, and you're singing about the music business and kind of the shadiness that's involved. And I know you obviously have experience with that in your early days with Attic Records.
Well, that's what inspired the song. That's actually exactly what inspired the song. It was the death of Tom Williams and El Mayer within 6 months of each other. Unresolved arguments that will never, ever, ever get resolved. But in a cathartic way, I wrote the lyrics about what was bothering me, and I feel better.
Well, you hear about bands re-recording old albums, to get the rights back. I don't like Taylor Swift, maybe. I mean, is that something you guys would ever be open to doing?
We've already done quite a number of songs already, where we actually, and believe it or not, this is a phenomenal thing, is that the publisher, Pure Music, paid for the re-record of some of our past catalog. And that's so that they didn't have to share dividends. It's the same material. They still owned the material, but they didn't have to share the dividends with Unidisc, with the company that bought up Attic Records.
Okay.
If you make new versions, you don't have to pay that record company. But because the publishers are still the same, they still receive the same amount of money.
Oh. So
what that does is it gives more money in my pocket, more money in the publisher's pocket. Not that it means a hell of a lot, because 50% of my royalties are going to the publisher.
Sure.
So, but I still think it's a phenomenal thing that Pure Music did, that they went in and took the initiative, and on a number of levels. I mean, they got Chris Tangarides to come back to come in at the time and redo the songs. It's the same producer in the same studio. So it's actually pretty damn similar recordings, right?
Sure.
You'd have to listen to it a few times before you realized one was the copy of the other. So that's actually a great thing. You don't want to outdo anything, and you don't want to do it for less. You want it to be approximately the same, so that and the whole purpose of this at that particular time was the publisher was getting offers from movies for our material, but having to give Unidisc a cut of that. So that what they did is they, of course, very intelligently changed it up, right? Why don't we just pay a few $1,000 and have Chris Tangarides come in and re-record Forge and Fire, Metal on Metal, 666, Winged Assassins? Let's have our own copies of the songs that get licensed. So that's what they did. So as it turns out, of course, Metal on Metal was used in The Simpsons.
Sure.
And it wasn't the Unidisc version. It was the new version. Does anyone know the difference? Does anyone care? No. It's still Metal on Metal. Still the same thing. The only difference is where the money's getting allocated. And you got to love it. Somebody helped us out and fixed it. And that's pure music. And I tip my hat to that kind of heartfelt business. That's really, really, really cool stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I heard that on The Simpsons, and I didn't know until now that wasn't the original. So you're right. They're spot on.
Yeah, you're not going to know. You're not. You have to. I don't even know how you. I have to listen to it really carefully. So how's anybody going to tell the difference? It's done by the same producer, same band, same singer, same lead guitar player, same drummer. Like, how much difference is there going to be? It's actually interesting. It's a fascinating concept. But the better of the job that you do in replicating the original, the more actually the better it ultimately is, because then it gets used instead of.
Definitely. Well, again, the new album's out, One and Only, and I know Anvil's going to be playing some shows here, and you're coming to Minneapolis, Zora Darling, on August 21st. That's a fairly new venue here in Minnesota, but you guys are always great about making your way through Minnesota, so I'm sure that's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it's interesting because that we're talking about Minnesota. It's just like I just gave me the shivers, because yesterday I made arrangements because my nephew lives in Denver.
Okay.
And 3 days before we play Minneapolis, we're in Denver. So I stayed over and bought a flight to get there. So I'll be there on the 21st at 12:10.
All right.
The 21st of August, yes.
Yeah, it's great that Anvil is always coming through Minnesota, and you guys are always touring. I know that's how bands make most of their money these days.
Sorry. I thought you said Minneapolis. Never mind. Nice story, but different place. Okay.
We're in Minnesota here, Minneapolis. You were right on there.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what the hell, man. I could swear I thought you meant. Yeah. Okay. You did. It's one and the same. All right. It's confusing because it's St. Paul. It's St. Paul, Minneapolis, right?
Right. Twin cities.
They're two cities beside each other, right?
Yep. The Twin Cities. Yep.
Yeah. And that they're both in Minnesota.
Right. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Now I got it all straight. I'm a Canadian. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, you guys are always on the road, and I know that's how bands make most of their money these days, but I'm always amazed that you guys, you never seem to let up. You're always out there.
Yeah. Well, that's the major part of the business, right? It's a real band, not a super megastar band. So what does that mean? It means you have to go out and play all the time to make a living, right? That's how I make a living. I work. I like everybody else. I try to work every day. Rock stars, they work, a week, a month. You know what I mean? If that. Oh, we'll do a gig this week. We'll do a gig next week. You know, watch the Rolling Stones. They do. I think they're doing a show a week. You know, I that'd be a hell on earth for me. Oh, you never get completely warmed up. Oh, that must be terrible. Whatever. I teach their own. Whatever they do, hope they're happy. That's all I can say. But for me, I like to be out on the road as much as possible. I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, again, you guys will be playing here in Minneapolis August 21st, and the new album, One and Only, is out. Is there anything else maybe coming up we should be looking out for?
Well, they're going to release another single in the next few days. I believe that. So you keep an eye out for that. It's another song from the album, so you got to get to hear another song. So that'll make 3 that you get to hear before you have to purchase it. But the third one is the heaviest of the 3 that we released first. That's all. But there's even heavier songs that haven't been released. We went with the lightest songs.
Okay, yeah. Well,
to release first. Like literally, we went with the lightest songs because it just made sense to do that. Like Feed Your Fantasy, although it's extraordinarily accessible. A lot of people that might not be particularly metal oriented will be attracted to that song. Like My Eye Doctor.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I've liked what I've heard so far. And Lips, I got to say, it's always an honor speaking with you, and I'm excited for seeing you here coming to Minneapolis. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
And again, that was Lips from Anvil. Their new album, One and Only, is out now, and they'll be heading to Minneapolis to Zora Darling on August 21st.